Hello, this is TGC Requiem with a little bit of a brew here. I'm a fan of Soulflayer. It's a pet card, and I just felt like doing something with it. Thought you guys might have some fun. One of my buddies, Kev, you may have seen him in some of the other videos. He's been trying to come up with an idea as well. We got some rounds into test. I've been kind of toying with Jund as my primary, but I'm going to play with this bug one here in a minute. But basically, the goal is to make a ridiculous Soulflayer, or to take the power of Grave Strength to get a bunch of damage through early. So Thought Scour just helps feed cards in the graveyard while cantripping. Birds of Paradise offers flying to the Soulflayer, but also keeps our mana going since we're running low mana. Helps with the mana requirement since it can tap for any color. Later in the game, a Grave Strength on it can do damage. Invisible Stalker is for hexproof, but it also can't be blocked, so if you can get a big graveyard going, Grave Strength's great for that. Vault Scourge, Lifelink, and Flying. Again, these are abilities to give to the Soulflayer. Tarmogoyf is just because we're putting stuff in the graveyard. Tarmogoyf is just going to be big. It's not helping Soulflayer in any regard, but it's just a good beater on its own. Lotleth Troll, discard a creature card, put a 1/1 counter on Lotleth Troll, and then you can regenerate it. Lotleth Troll's good at getting cards out of your hand that you don't want, specifically if you're going to be casting a Soulflayer. And also if you, say, pitch a Stinkweed Imp to the graveyard, if you use the Stinkweed Imp's ability to dredge 5 cards into the graveyard, that will come back in your hand, allowing you to cast or sacrifice it for Lotleth Troll again. So that's a neat little combo that we have there. Scabruinator is kind of the same thing. So it can be cast out of the graveyard or out of your hand. Regardless of where you cast it, it requires 3 creature cards in the graveyard to cast it. But it's one of those things, you can pitch it to make Lotleth Troll bigger before you actually cast it. And we run 2 scab in the main and 2 in the side. The side are for if we want to try and fight graveyard hate by going into Collected Company. So Lotleth Troll also gives trample for Soulflayer. Scabruinator offers flying, also is just powerful on its own. Stinkweed Imp offers flying and is actually just a good chump blocker. Deals combat damage to creature, destroy that creature. It's basically Death Touch without actually being Death Touch. Master of the Feast, flying is just a beat stick. It also Vault Scourge as an artifact and Master of the Feast as an enchantment, or goif food, if you will. So just something that you can toy with there. And then Vampire Nighthawk, flying, Death Touch, Lifelink. Sometimes this Death Touch is relevant. You can get a flying Death Touch, Lifelink, or even just Death Touch, Lifelink. Really, the key thing here I'm getting to is Death Touch, Trample, Hexproof. That's another way to get a lot of damage through off of a Soulflayer with Grave Strength thrown onto it. Grave Strength is big because it offers counters, not a temporary buff. Unfortunately, it's a sorcery. But it allows you to throw it onto, say, an Invisible Stalker and do a bunch of damage. Unblockable. So that's kind of another angle of the game plan. But again, Flying, Death Touch, Lifelink, just all kind of packaged into one. And then Thrun, which is just kind of to help against control, and it is hexproof and a good creature on its own. You can regenerate it. One of the things with one of Troll's issues currently is that it's only a 4/4 with Gurmag Angler and Tasigur, etc. But Grave Strength can remedy that. And then Segumaler, Trample, Hexproof is another one. And you get to a late game, he can just be decent on his own. We're running 20 land. We've got basically, not exactly, but basically 14 sources of each color. And Birds of Paradise helps to fix it, but a lot of them are fetches, which again are a part of the whole getting your double black for Soulflayer, which is part of why lifelink is fairly relevant, because you may cast Vault Scourge on turn 1, fetch for a shock, which puts you down 4, and then Vault Scourge puts you down 2 more. So you can be at 14 possibly on that early in the game, but Vault Scourge also gets pitched to Soulflayer, gets you some lifelink, which is also good. So post board, I've had issues when you don't get the trample against token decks, and so Golgari Charm's good because it's -1/-1 to all creatures, which doesn't hit most of your creatures, especially once you've gotten going. But destroy the target enchantment is very relevant in some matchups, and regenerate each creature could be relevant. It's just the flexibility. I haven't had to use the third ability yet. Abrupt Decay for what Abrupt Decay does. Pack Rat and Liliana are both discard outlets or sack outlets, like Lotleth Troll is, but they also can play in different sort of matchups. So Liliana is very good against control. Pack Rat, again, once you stick it, is potentially good against control, but it's also really good in long, grindy, mid-range matchups. And then Scab Ruinator, it's very just powerful 5/6 flyer. Part of its issue is it's needing creatures in the graveyard, so if somebody shuts down the graveyard, that hurts. But if we plan to not worry about the graveyard in the second game and go with Collected Company, possibly pulling out Soulflayer, just gives us a different angle that people may not be prepared for. So that is the deck tech on this Soulflayer bug list, and we're going to run a match here, see how it goes.